What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 200. I almost said 100 something, but nope, this is episode 200. I am your host, Kevin. Been here for all 200 episodes, but I am joined by the co-host who hasn't been here for 200 episodes, but I hope will be here for 200 more. JamPackSam, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, man. Congrats on 200 episodes. That's a milestone. That's a big number.
It is. And now is your milestone too. We kicked all the other old hosts off so you can take the credit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how things typically work. So, these 200 episodes have really meant a lot to me. I'm happy to have been a part of the ride from the bottom all the way here. And yeah, we're going to keep on going. Yeah.
Just pull out a scroll, start thanking everyone,
Yeah. But I'm doing very well. I am ready to discuss a lot of good topics today. I know it's been a little hot in the PlayStation side of things, a little cooler on the Xbox side, but we're gonna have a good discussion to celebrate 200.
Yeah, it's good that we aren't a PlayStation podcast because boy, no one would listen to me after the things I would say about them recently. Oh my god, you see, they might be remastering Days Gone.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard the Horizon Zero Dawn is pretty much a guaranteed remaster, and it's we're just gonna. I think they looked at Nintendo and they were like, "Hey, they just put out all the Wii U games on the Switch. Why couldn't we do that?" And then somebody was like, "They actually sold well for us," and somebody was like, "Shut up! We're gonna do it anyway." So that's where they're at.
Knack Remastered coming at you.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, I'll play it. Well, this is Project XTalk. We are an Xbox podcast live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia. If you can't catch us live, post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review. Boost us in those algorithms. And if you want to support us even further, get early audio access and exclusive bonus content to I don't know what I'm saying. Patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia. That's where you need to go. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, Lee Navarro, Silknit, Ellerwoods Parker III, Chad, Shelby Macy, and Rick Davis. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. You know what it is, Sam? I don't know if I assume you write out your scripts for videos, right?
I do.
And
yes.
Obviously we have a document here for all the news and stuff, but I got the rigmarole for the housekeeping. When I interject things into the housekeeping, just throws me off the whole flow because I'm looking at that and I'm like, where do I go next?
Yeah, I am really thankful that I don't do live shows other than this anymore because the stress of because I'm a very I try to be a very articulate person online. Like I always try to complete sentences and not have like a lot of you know how it is. And man, being able to just totally mess something up and go back and just trim out the bits that I don't want, beautiful. So that's why I do what I do. But yeah, I feel the script part.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I was referencing is, of course, if I put some congratulations for 200 episodes from a few of our listeners. So Hopple, longtime listener, writes and says, "Congrats on 200 episodes. Have a good show, and I hope there's some special guests." Unfortunately, no special guests tonight. I dropped away, unless you count Mountain Dew from Taco Bell. That's a special guest, but I might have dropped the ball on the guest part of the 200 episode. Okay, I was a little busy. Okay, I had some things go on over the weekend. Had some plans. Personal things got in the way. All right,
understandable. So, I mean, are we not enough? Is that what I'm hearing from our community? Like, do you need other people? What's going on here?
Right. Alpaca Tom, who was one of the original hosts of Project XTalk, comes and says, "Hosts came and went, but we have one constant: the legend Kevin Ainsworth. May you make it at 300." Thank you, Tom. Thank you, appreciate you, buddy. Hope to see you again soon at some point. Who I've only met Tom once in real life. He actually lives like 15 minutes away from me, so I have no real excuse. But
understandable.
It is what it is.
I get it.
All right. Well, we got more questions from listeners writing in, but before we get to that, Sam, this episode, we're just going to chill, hang out. News is pretty light this week in the Xbox front. We got a few things to talk about, but I want to hear what you have been playing.
Yeah, man, I have been bopping around to a whole lot of different testosterone-filled shooting games, pretty much.
Taco Bell, that's what it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're getting into the season of Black Ops 6 coming up. I had to get the Taco Bell. I was in Costco earlier today and I saw the Black Ops 6 monster cans. You know, 'tis the season. It really is a beautiful thing. But last week I picked up Space Marine 2. I ended up buying the physical copy of it, which I have laying around somewhere, from GameStop, and it didn't get here until I bought it the day it came out, and it got here the following Saturday. So like 3-day shipping on that.
Mm-hmm.
And with Space Marine 2, it's exactly what I thought it would be. It is more Space Marine, it's the ripping and tearing in the gears kind of thing. It's not like blowing my mind, it's good. It's good. Mm-hmm. It meets the expectation that I had for it. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. But it's not grabbing me like I thought that it would. So I'm probably, I want to say maybe 2 hours into the whole thing. I have not played a ton of it, but it is very fun. Like I'm having a good time with it. But it's just more Space Marine. So that is what I spent the first chunk of the weekend on. Let me tell you though, been playing a lot of XDefiant. So before I get into that, do you want to go deeper on the Space Marine 2 talk or any questions?
So I haven't booted up Space Marine. It's been downloaded since release on my console. Mm-hmm. And I just convinced my brother Kyle to download it just so we can play co-op. So, there's a third slot open, Sam. Maybe co-op would really get you more invigorated.
I mean, having played the single player and seeing how the co-op fits in, I definitely think a co-op would be a good way to go about it for sure.
Well, I'll hit you up. If we can make the times work, you're always welcome to join. Yeah. I remember us all playing Crash Team Rumble together.
Yeah, good times.
But I'm looking forward to Space Marine 2. I hear nothing but good things about it from everyone. So.
Yeah, very good game. I'm going to get back into it this weekend and really give it a go, but it is exactly what you think it would be. And then I've been playing a ton of XDefiant. This is the game that I picked up in between, like after Black Ops 6, and I was like, I want to shoot something. Here I am. I literally didn't have the battle pass last week. I started the battle pass. I'm halfway through with it out of the 90 levels. Like I'm just grinding this thing. But season 2 for XDefiant is coming. I'm excited about it. Me and the 4 other people, we're all pretty pumped, but they put out an updated year 1 roadmap. They've got a lot of content coming, so I'm going to continue putting more time into it. But I've been spending a lot of time with that.
Yeah, Rick Davis was hanging out with us in the chat along with some other people. Shout out Nerd Chat, Silkin It, Alpaca Tom. If you're here, everyone, thank you. If I didn't get your name, you're much appreciated. But Rick Davis wrote in and said, Sam, did you see that the devs of XDefiant said the word of them shutting down isn't true? They just received additional funding by Ubisoft recently.
I did see that news. I also don't know that I believe it because Concord could come back, guys. It's going to be fine.
It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in the where there's smoke, there's fire, and so I do think there are concerns internally. I mean, even in that statement, they said that we want more players. Obviously, like I'm cutting their words down a little bit, but they do want more players playing the game. I do think, though, the reaction to season 2 could bring people back. Like they're bringing in some pretty iconic weapons and maps and stuff. So it looks very good. But I hope the best for it because I really do think that there's something unique with XDefiant. It's a fun, free-to-play game. So if you haven't played it, go back, check it out. And then speaking of going back and checking stuff out, Helldivers 2, the new patch dropped. We're back, baby. I'm back in. I'm back in. I might buy a war bond. I might mess around and buy a little war bond. But I've played probably about 3 hours of the new patch for Helldivers. Very fun. I skipped it over the summer, so it still feels not stale to me, but I'm having a really good time.
That's I saw you, I think it was Threads, maybe you mentioned this, or you're like, oh, I'm playing Helldivers 2 again or something. I'm like, what? He because I saw you got your Space Marine, you're posting. I'm like, all these new games coming out. He's like, Helldivers, dude. It's that meme where you're throwing them and then you're looking back, Helldivers 2. That's what's up.
Well, they basically buffed the entire game. That's the thing.
Thank God.
Yeah, they went through and they had changed a lot of stuff to make it feel more realistic and gritty and kind of raise the stakes. And then they realized, hey, people literally just want to mow down giant waves of aliens. And so they've gone back and buffed everything. I know the thermite grenade, I think, got the wildest buff from 100 damage to 2,000. Like, and it was just stuff like that they went back and they were like, yeah, That was wrong. We should undo that. So I'm having a great time with it. I'm melting stuff, playing a bit on the Steam Deck as well. So I'm getting that back into the mix. Really, really fun time though.
That's awesome because one of the things I don't like in PvE games is when they nerf. I'm like, I understand PvP balancing, but in a PvE game, the whole point is for community to just have fun. Who cares if things are overpowered? Who cares if things are like broken? Like, let them have their fun. So the fact that they're kind of leaning into that more, that's a good on you, Arrowhead.
Yeah, and while I'm on this soapbox, before we get into what you've been playing, because I definitely want to hear about the Plucky Squire, I put out a video about the Helldivers 2 patch. Got a lot of views on TikTok, a lot of people discussing stuff, and they said, "Oh, the Space Marine 2 came out. Now they've got competition." And I've seen that narrative online. These are two completely
Yeah, I'm like,
different.
what?
Literally, I mean, I guess people are looking at it, and it's the tech behind the Tyranids in Space Marine 2, where it's like a giant wave of aliens rushing towards you. If you're online and you think, "Oh, I don't need to buy Space Marine 2 because I have Helldivers 2," or vice versa, these are very, very vastly different games. I just wanted to address that. I haven't been going back and forth with people in my comments, but it was just wild to see the comparisons made there. Very strange.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. From what I know, like Space Marine 2 full co-op campaign. They also have a PvP mode, which Helldivers doesn't have, and then they have their operations
Yep.
mode, which is a PvE thing. But that's more like you get different classes and like horde mode, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's Space Marine 2 is very mission focused. It's not really like this mini open world kind of thing that Helldivers 2 has.
Yeah.
It's a totally different setup. I don't know why people are conflating these things, but nonetheless, just wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm speaking of Space Marine one more time. I'm really glad that it's selling well. Like
Yeah.
I see the devs talking, they're posting about it all the time. Like it seems like the game is a hit, and that fills me with joy because I want more of these experiences. I want more 360 style games.
Yeah, and it's selling well on Xbox. I saw that was
Thank
coming out as
God.
well. It was I think I don't remember if it was the biggest Warhammer launch on Xbox in history. I saw headlines that were talking about how well it was doing on Xbox in particular, and so that's nice to finally have a true narrative point of, hey, we don't just play Game Pass games, you know?
To be fair, this is the ideal Xbox audience game, is it
Oh
not?
yeah. Oh, it absolutely. This is the ideal Xbox 360 person that's had Halo Master Chief Collection on a Series X since day one. Like this is
Mhm.
their game, and I'm very happy it exists.
I've been waiting for it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'll jump into what I've been playing because I've been playing not as much as I wanted to because I was away this weekend. I went to Salem, Massachusetts. Got engaged for anyone
Yeah,
that
you
doesn't
did.
know. All right, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, I
I
did.
wasn't going to bring it up until you brought it up because
Oh, well,
that's
thank
your
you,
news to
thank you.
share. But
Oh, thank you.
congratulations. I was very happy. It made my weekend to see that your weekend was a big one for you. So that's awesome.
Yes, I also walked probably more than people should in a day. Like my feet, I'm like my feet are bleeding. I was like at 30,000 steps per day, which is like that's a lot of steps. All right, I'm walking back and forth, back and forth, back, and I'm like, oh my god. But yes, very good weekend. So I was busy with other stuff, but I did get some gaming in since I got back. I'll start with the casting of Frank Stone, which I touched on a little bit last week. I'm almost at the end. We're on chapter 11 out of 14, so we're nearing the end. That'll probably be wrapped up this weekend. My tune on the game has changed. I will say it still starts slow, as I said last week, but once you get past, I'd say chapter 5, 6, and that's like a little like first chapter really good, then you have a little lull, and then it picks up. Like interesting story going on, some murder going on, the horror elements are back in. So I'm feeling it. Like I think this is a very good, super massive game so far, and I'm like, I got really no complaints since last week. Like everything I've played since then, it's just been uphill.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that hopefully they've timed it well. Thinking about the future of the game, Halloween's coming. I would imagine that's when the 20% off sale would probably hit, and so maybe people can get in the door if they weren't there at launch. It'll be a good time of the year for them to go back and check that out. Because I've heard good things, but it hasn't. I don't think lit the world on fire the way that maybe some people would have thought that it might. I don't know.
I think it came out at a bad time. Like it came out
Yeah.
sandwiched between a lot of big releases, and like if they could have pushed this into October, I think it might have hit better for them because like the beginning of September was just so packed. And I will say one thing that maybe you might want to hold off on the game a little bit if you're thinking about picking it up. They released a patch on Sunday that deleted a bunch of people's save data.
Ooh.
Luckily, I saw that this was happening, went to my cloud save, and I'm downloading it. I'm not even going to check. I'm not even going to give it the option to override. I'm downloading this immediately. So I'm good. I haven't had that issue, but it is a big problem.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I'm glad that our community would know that as well. Obviously, I don't have a save, but that is always a negative whenever they put out updates. What was the most recent game that had their updates bricked or their saves bricked?
Star Wars Outlaws did.
That's what it was. Yeah, that was horrible seeing that, especially knowing the type of game that it is because if you're 20 hours into your early access.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we know you paid $30 to $50 extra to play this a few days early. You got to start over though.
Yeah, no, I think I saw a lot of people that gave up on that. I think somebody from Kind of Funny was like, "Yeah, my save got corrupted. I'm not going back." And I mean, I get that. That's fair.
I would have been refunding that, like complaining,
Oh yeah,
until I got my money back.
yeah.
Astrobot. I have beaten Astrobot. I have platinumed Astrobot.
Ooh,
I have fallen in love with Astrobot.
tell me about it.
As I talked about last week, I was like, this is a good 3D platformer. It's not doing anything revolutionary. I don't think the game of the year or something game of the generation talk. I thought that was a little overblown. And then I played more of it. And then I played more of it. And man, some of the more you go, the more creative these levels get. The more crazy cameo bots show up. Like there are people in here. I'm like, how did you even get in this game? In what world? And some of these VIP cameo bot levels, there's 5 of them in the game. And I think most people already know stuff. Like there's a God of War level that was in the trailer, right? Like that's not a spoiler. But there's one in here that you will not expect. Because I was like, I forgot that this was a PlayStation property. I forgot this game even existed. And it's probably the most fun and creative level in the game. I loved it. And for everyone that's like, oh, this is a very easy game. Overall, yes, it's a very easy game. There are some challenges with the challenge levels, is what they're called. And then probably the hardest level is the very last level you have to do, last challenge level, which it's a little long and they throw a lot of things at you at once. But even that it took me maybe 5-6 tries to get, which I'm like, for Astrobot, that's a little long for me. And so I loved doing it. The platinum was really fun to get, made me appreciate a lot of the things going on. They're funny trophies, like I don't want to spoil the bots in it, but there's one character from a Sega franchise, I will say.
Interesting.
And the trophy is you just go up and you beat the hell out of him. and then you just keep doing that till trophy pops. And that's all nice. I'm going to say. Yeah, it was very funny.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to the difficulty, and again, I haven't played Astrobot, don't own a PS5. I might after those anniversary ones drop. But the thing about a game like Astrobot, I think about Super Mario Galaxy a lot. And it was never a difficult game. There was a little bit of challenge there, but Super Mario Galaxy is one of my favorite games of all time because of just how good it is. Like the level design, the art design. And from what I've heard from people that have been playing it, it's on that level of like something that's just a very, 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 very good game. So congrats to them for sticking the landing. I'm glad that it kind of grew on you over time. And I'll be interested to see how it goes during the award season, because obviously with the Game Awards, a lot of that is dictated by what gaming professionals have to say. And I think Astrobot is definitely one that's won a lot of that crowd over in a big way that not a lot of games would this year, at least right now.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it I'm sure it will be nominated. Just like the critical acclaim, the word of mouth, I have no doubt it'll be nominated for things, and it'll probably win a few categories. Like it should, best family game, I imagine it'll be in there. The one year Nintendo doesn't win it, I imagine. But in terms of game of the year, I'm still a little skeptical on if it would beat something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or something that maybe critics would think, well, this has story and everything else going on in that game, as opposed to Astrobot, where it's a fantastic 3D platformer, but the story is You're not here for that. You're rebuilding the PS5. That's the story of Astrobot.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. But I definitely am starting to get more excited about the award season. Obviously, the Game Awards had their promo that went out a couple of weeks ago. We're kind of getting in the thick of the fall release season. A lot of DLCs as well this time around. So it'll be interesting to see how things kind of stick the landing here in a couple of months. I always love this stuff.
I totally forgot that Shattered Space comes out in 11 days.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, you know what? Because I changed my work schedule, so I have every other Monday off. I only work 9 days now. I have that Monday off. I'm gonna spend the whole day playing Shattered Space.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that as well. I do think that it feels like it's kind of off the radar of a lot of people, but I kind of feel the same way about Vessel of Hatred. Like I don't feel
I
like
forgot that was coming out too.
I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about these things. I mean, we know because of the release calendars and the conversation, but it'll be interesting to see how Shattered Space does. And then where Starfield goes from there. But they're saying all the right things. Everything's centralized on one planet, very intentional design. Feels like we're actually getting to what people would expect from a Bethesda kind of game.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for it. Hopefully I'll because I want to knock that out before Metaphor comes out, but like I want to get to Space Marine before that comes out. Like I don't have much time to do all these things. So
and when are you gonna grind your X-Defiant Battle Pass?
Ooh, that one probably not. I'll probably just give them the $10, unlock everything.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right. The last game I want to talk about, and it's on the thumbnail because, like I said, light news week. But Sam, you actually transitioned well into this because you were talking about a game that critics have come out and really, really latched onto. The scores for the Plucky Squire came out. 9s, I've seen a few 10s, mostly 8s. It's in that high 8 range, right? So I got super excited when I saw those reviews. I was like, oh, this game is going to be so good. It's been one of my most anticipated for 2 years now. You heard me when we did our fantasy critic draft and we got snaked by those scumbags over at the Reincarnated Anime Podcast who took it just to make me mad. So I booted up. I am on the last level of the Plucky Squire. Maybe 5-ish hours in. So it's a pretty short game.
Oh, wow.
I don't get it. I do not understand these review scores at all. For me, if I had to score this game, it would be more like a 6.
Okay.
And I think that might be a little generous because this game is all style, no substance.
I've heard that a couple of times from a few people.
It is beautiful artistically. Like, love the art book, love the like when you go into the 3D space, that's probably my favorite. Like, I just love the way it looks, especially on my LG OLED. Like, absolutely stunning game. The actual gameplay of the Plucky Squire, though, so shallow. There's nothing to the combat. There's nothing to the puzzles, which I think I tweeted, why do they even exist? Because they introduce like a new concept every chapter and they keep it so bare bones. They never expand on anything. So like one of the main puzzles is you switch words and it changes the environment. So like, because it's in a storybook. So you'll change like, oh, the lake was covered in water. You can change it to ice and then you can get to different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is as bare bones as you will get the entire game. They never do anything creative with that. They never expand on that anymore, like changing multiple words in a sentence. It's always one word and that's it. And then you get these tools, like you get a stamp that'll stop things from moving. You get a bomb stamp and you do the same thing over and over again with them. You stop a moving object. That's it. You blow up a tank. That's it. And I'm just like, where is the creativity? Like there's so much when I'm looking at the game, it looks so good. And then when you're playing it, I'm like, I'm so mind-numbingly bored. I cannot. And if it wasn't so short, I probably would have dropped it. Like I'm at the end now, but you're constantly interrupted with exposition that like the story is not very good. It's like, oh, you got to take down this evil wizard, but we're going to go to all these other different places and do a bunch of random stuff first. And you're going to just get constantly interrupted with a wizard popping in and being like, I'm talking to you on my rune tooth telephone. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I don't know what vibe it's going for, but it's not working for me. I really wish I understood what the reviewers and like critics felt about this, because for me, I feel like everyone got caught up in the hype and they got caught up in the flashy, beautiful visuals, and the actual gameplay, they just gave it a pass because there's nothing here to keep you engaged.
Yeah, I was really shocked because I had heard a similar kind of thing from other people online. And then I heard, what you had been thinking about it along the way as well. I saw on Twitter. And then I saw Paris Lilly that tweeted, I was like, I love the puzzles. The puzzles are great. Like, it was part of his review. And it's very interesting. The way you describe it, though, and again, I haven't played this game, probably won't play this game after hearing your thoughts on it. It sounds like it would be a huge opportunity for something like Scribblenauts, where you like just write in. Obviously, there's a much deeper mechanic there, but thinking about how you have this kind of Mad Lib style option for navigating these puzzles, at least the ones you described, it would be cool, to be able to drop whatever you want, kind of write your own thing and kind of choose your own destiny there. But and hey, with generative AI, anything's possible these days, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's a bummer. I know you were looking forward to that one, and you're a big platformer guy. So if anybody knows this type of game, it would definitely be you. So sorry it didn't land for you.
Well, that's the thing too. I think I had different expectations because a lot of the trailers showed me more of like the 3D overworld platforming barely in the game. You spend most of your time on the 2D plane, going through page by page in a storybook, almost Zelda-esque, where you're just slashing enemies, go to the next page, solving puzzles in there. And then every once in a while, they'll say, oh, you need an item from the real world. And then you'll pop out of the storybook. And that is when I'm having the most fun. Like I almost wish the whole game was just set in a 3D environment, even just on this desk, because like everything looks so much better, crisper. Like they actually do some interesting stuff there. Like you have to jump in and out of these, like if there's like a puzzle along the desk, you'll jump into a piece and have to figure out what the connecting piece is to get through like a maze. They do much more in the 3D environment, and you actually have platforming elements, which is what I thought the game was, and it's really not.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So little bummed out. I want, like, everyone's probably listening to me be like, oh man, he really hates this game. I don't hate the game. Like again, it's fine. I just wanted more. I'm depressed that I don't love this game.
Yeah, and to be fair, maybe it's like one of those art pieces for a lot of the reviewers that are thinking about the way that the presentation kind of lands, where you're jumping in and out. But yeah, I think this is a great example of where PlayStation is now benefiting from that Game Pass kind of effect of, hey, we need a game on day one. Let's get the Plucky Squire. And it not only supports the developers to give them a little bit of oomph, to recoup development cost, but it also gets this into the hands of players that probably would have never played it otherwise. So I guess it's a win in that regard, but obviously wish it would have been better for you.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm glad I'm playing it through PS Plus, because I was fully ready to pre-order this game months ago, and just like I was like, oh, I know I'm gonna love this. So sometimes subscription services are good, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is all I've been playing. So why don't we jump into some news for the week, Sam? First up, PalWorld is being sued. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have filed a patent infringement lawsuit in the Tokyo District Court against Pocket Pair, the creators of PalWorld. The lawsuit seeks an injunction against infringement and compensation for damages on the grounds that PalWorld, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. And then Pocket Pair responded, basically saying, "We have no idea what they're talking about. We don't know we don't know what we're doing wrong here." And that's kind of where we stand. They're going to go to court, but how are we feeling? This was obviously a big hit for Xbox, for Game Pass at the top of the year, and now we're about 8 months removed from that, and Nintendo finally has come into the picture and say, "We're gonna try to cut you out here."
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I made a video on this early this morning because Pocket Pair put out their statement at 4:55 a.m. I got up at 5 and was like, all right, time to go, because I wanted to get both sides of the story before I made my thing. And even then I learned a lot. I do want to preface this by saying I'm not a lawyer. Conveniently, though, neither is most of the people that are leaving a comment on the internet. So, I literally, I put up a post on Threads, and I want to see where it's at right now, because I had to mute the replies. There are currently 162 replies to my post on Threads talking about this PalWorld thing. So I would wager 98% of those people have never been to law school, much like myself. So take everything I say with a grain of salt here, but it is a patent infringement, which means there's a patent, not a copyright, different kind of thing, although there can be overlap there. And I thought it was very interesting that Steven Totilo, who has, great newsletter, puts out independent work now, used to be with Axios and a couple of other outlets, but he found a patent from 2021 where Nintendo filed one for a video game character throwing an item to catch a monster while out in the field. So, number one, that feels like the React situation from a couple of years ago where like you can't copyright reacting to something. It's an emotion. It's not even like it's a concept. It doesn't feel like that should be something you can do. But beyond that, a lot of people have brought up the threat towards games of this type. This is not the only monster catching game that's out there, even if PalWorld happens to be the one that now holds the third highest all-time peak player count on Steam. So it had success that others haven't necessarily seen, and I think that's drawing additional scrutiny by it. But it is also multiple patents, so who knows what else there could be here that we don't know about yet, and even the Pocket Pair allegedly doesn't know about yet.
Yeah, I think the thing everyone has been pointing to is the ball catching mechanic, which obviously the two games share. But then my mind goes to games like Nexomon and Temtem. I think that's the that one's it. And then Cassette Beast, which I don't know much about those three games. I know they are monster catching games, but I assumed that at least one of those also used a ball catching mechanic. And I might be wrong about that, chat. If you know, please correct me. But if it is just the ball catching mechanic, I feel like Nintendo would have done it for other people. So which brings me to are they only going after PalWorld because of the success that it saw? They have a ton of money now, means they can be financially compensated. Like, it seems pretty shady Nintendo waited this long, let them get so much money, and then come in. Which, to be fair, I want this known. I'm firmly on Nintendo's side here. I do not think Pocket Pair is a company of any talent, really, to be honest with you. The CEO has openly said that they're cool with just copying ideas. He literally said our next game looks like Hollow Knight. So there's inspiration, and then there's blatant, we're just gonna copy this popular thing. And I think that is devoid of all creativity. So if I'm looking to pick a side, I'm sticking my flag in Nintendo, which is probably unpopular in most litigation circles for gamers.
I've seen a wide breadth of comments on this today on Threads. They're very pro Nintendo. In my TikTok comments, they're very pro PalWorld. I kind of find myself somewhere in the middle where, like, do I think that they could have done a better job of having an original skew to what they ended up putting out? Yeah, like it's clear that when you boot up the game, like, oh, that's a Pokeball. Like, there's no question about it. That's a Pokeball. And then you've got like all these various pals that literally look like Pokemon, which is
that's an Electabuzz. That's a Lucario.
Yeah, like literally you can call them out by name, what they actually are supposed to represent. But I do think the survival mechanics kind of made something unique. I just wish they had done more to not be in the situation where they had kind of been able to avoid this. I will also say that whenever I told my fiance, like, hey, by the way, I sent her the PalWorld thing, and I was like, yo, not a good look right now. There was like a genuine, like, oh, I like PalWorld, and I think that's kind of where a lot of people find themselves in, this situation where they might have spent the month of January, the last half of January, playing a lot of PalWorld, putting a lot of time into it. And even if they've kind of been jaded, their positive memories of PalWorld. So I put a good bit of time into it towards the end of January. I totally fell off. I know that it's been hovering around like 20,000 players, a little over on Steam. So it still has some meat on the bone. But I don't know how this is going to end. I would be very, very interested to see a world where Nintendo loses, because I feel like if you've waited since January, you have something. Like you have something you can confidently go and say, hey, here's, it's kind of like the meme of like, what, hey, what's this? Like pulling the little patent infringement thing. I feel like they definitely have some kind of evidence that something has been done incorrectly on the Pocket Pair side.
Because it is patents and not copyright, I don't think they're going after them for like looking the same. And I've seen a lot of people think that's what this is about. And I'm like, I still think that's egregious most of the time, but like maybe a Lapras with cannons on her back is all it takes to get around that kind of stuff, you know?
See, I was thinking through it like, yes, the patent thing. I think the like the ball throwing mechanic and stuff like that's all fair game. But also like when it comes to the patents, does the way an animal moves count as a patent because you design?
I don't think so.
You know what I mean? Like that's where my mind is at. As somebody who is not a game developer and not a lawyer, I'm trying to think through like the ways because the animals are clearly, or the pals, sorry, the pals are clearly the most like, hey, yo, what's up with that? So I feel like if there was a way for them to kind of loop that in, they would definitely go for it. I'm just trying to think through like what the multiple patents element would be because the capturing mechanic feels like it's it. So there's definitely something else. I don't know what else. I mean, maybe like a leveling system, like maybe that could be it.
I don't know if you can patent a leveling system though. Like every game, every RPG is a leveling system. You know what I'm saying? Like
I don't know. I mean, who would have thought you could patent capturing monsters in a field? What's up with that?
Nintendo, you listen. I said I'm on Nintendo side, but they do have some explaining to do. I don't know what they're talking about most of the time. Like if it's not for ripping off designs,
yeah,
I don't know what you're yelling about.
But I also, whenever I was talking about through this or last night, whenever the news broke, I was like, now, if you were Nintendo and somebody came to you and they said, hey, if you could go back in time and kill Digimon, would you kill Digimon? And then, of course, Nintendo's going to be like, yeah, I don't want that competition. Like, well, hey, PalWorld's doing it again. So, like, go get them. I feel like that's also definitely part of the optics here. But it's a weird situation, man.
Digimon had a better anime. I'm going to say it now.
Can't speak to it. Wouldn't know.
Oh.
Never watched either of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my heart. All right. Well,
I was watching Code Lyoko.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I had to regain the respect before we move on to the next topic.
It's all good now. It's all good.
Yeah,
he can stay, everyone.
All right, cool.
All right. Story number 2. Wall Street Journal put out a report that the Xbox Series and PS5 battle is a repeat of last generation. Xbox One sold a total of 58 million, while PS4 sold 117 million, meaning this generation, again, according to data from Aldora Intelligence, has Xbox trailing massively. The Xbox Series consoles apparently have sold 28.3 million units, while PS5 sits at 61.7, meaning that once again the ratio is about 2-1 in favor of PlayStation. So, Sam, I put this in here again because light news week, but I saw this going around, people pretending to X Prize, people using it as console war, and I'm just like, okay, so we're all acting like Xbox is doing way worse than last generation, but that's not what the numbers are saying. Nothing has really changed from the Xbox One era, is what I got out of this article.
I would also like to call out that these figures don't factor in the amount of Amazon Fire TVs that are out in circulation and the amount of PCs that exist in the world. So really, I think the ratio is flipped.
Yeah, about 6-1 Xbox.
Yeah, like we are clearly dominating right now. No, but in reality, I mean, it's an old tried and true thing. If you put me up against somebody else, like if you put me up against Usain Bolt on a sprint, I'm not going to win. So like whenever you're putting PlayStation and Xbox head to head after the PS4 generation going into a generation where, it's just a weird setup. There's nothing here. Like it is what it is. I don't know why we're still talking about this and milking the number situation. This is where it's going to be for the rest of the generation. Especially as number one, PlayStation puts out a really expensive console and then a 30th anniversary version of their most popular console. And then on top of that, you've got the Xbox side where they're telling you to not buy a console. Like these numbers aren't going to get any better. Like they're just going to continue to get more disparate, if anything.
Yeah, I had a friend of the show, Savoy Prime, hop into my DMs today, and he's like, what's going on in the console space, man? And I'm like, well, PlayStation's charging you $1,000 for a console minimum, and Xbox saying don't buy our consoles. I don't know what's going on. No, nothing here surprises me. This is very much in line with what I expected. I'm interested to see if Call of Duty affects anything. I can't say that I'm very confident at this moment that things are going to change. If Xbox can hit 58 million again this generation, I think you take that as a win. But right now, I'm feeling less confident than ever that Xbox is going to even hit those milestones. And I don't know if PlayStation hits 117 million, like maybe, but with the fact that they're putting out that $700 console, now a $1,200 bundle that they're only making 12,000 of, like it's just a very weird landscape in the console market at the moment.
I do not think the PS5 is going to hit that 117. I mean, that's a lot of ground to make up for in half of the generation and the last half of the PS5. Again, we don't know a lot. There's still stuff. We know Wolverine's on the way. We don't know what else we know. There's probably a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster again. Well, actually, they haven't remastered that one again, but my point still stands as a remastered, alleged Days Gone remaster. But unless they up their games that they're well known for, I don't see those numbers really changing. And then with Xbox, I don't think anything, even Call of Duty, could move the needle. With the the Game Pass sub existing on PC and cloud being their focus, and then people being able to just buy Call of Duty on anything they want. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So I think that's kind of where we are.
Black Wyver wrote in, says, with the news of the PS5 Pro, do you think we'll get a statement/announcement from Xbox on anything console related before mid-November?
Yeah, they're going to tell you the white Xbox Series X is available now. That's what you're going to be getting.
So I've seen this sentiment actually expressed a few times by some other podcasts in the community. I'm not going to say brethren podcasts, other podcasts in the community, who said Sarah Bond told us that new Xbox hardware is being announced this holiday. And I was like, I don't think you guys heard her correctly. She said new Xbox hardware for this holiday, and that was announced. That's the white Xbox Series X. That's like Galaxy Xbox Series S. That's that other Series S. Like, we have our hardware announcement. This is what we're getting. There's not going to be a mid-gen refresh. There's not going to be a pro console. This is what we have until 2026, 2027, when they most likely say, hey, we're going before PlayStation. Here's our next gen console.
Yeah, and I also think that makes sense. Like, I'm not mad about that at all. When you look at the reaction to the PlayStation 5 Pro, I mean, even the analysts are saying that that's going to account in, an ideal world, on the upper teens of the split of the PlayStation 5 generation. In a world where Xbox is trying to get people in the door, like, you have $199 Xbox Series S and you're still falling behind. Why would you put out an $800 SKU of that or a $700 SKU of that? So I don't think it's a bad move to not have a pro console at all. And in terms of like the expectation, I think that we're all just antsy because of how much innovation we're seeing right now. Like, the handheld space has blown up over the past couple of years, where the Steam Deck came out, then the ROG Ally, obviously out of order, but there's a lot of Legion Go, all of these things that are pushing the boundary of what handheld gaming can do, combined with stuff like the PlayStation Portal and the Logitech G Cloud that's bringing the costs down for the handheld cloud gaming side of things. And then you've got the PS5 Pro. So people want something, but it's a situation where you've got to be patient. You've got to let the tech cook, because otherwise you're going to get something that's half baked.
I will reiterate again that if Nintendo announces the Super Switch, Switch 2, whatever they're calling it, in the next few weeks here, before the PS5 Pro comes out, and they drop a price point that's like $400, which I think is totally like in the realm of possibility for the next Switch to cost, I think that will dramatically impact the PS5 console sales. I think people will look at that and say, well, do I need the upgrade? Because the Switch needs an upgrade. Like, that has been out for almost is probably going to be 8+ years when the Switch 2 finally comes out. Like, if there's one you need to replace, it's the Switch. And I think that will be a big selling point. I think that's people are disregarding that because it's like, oh, they don't compete in the same space. But gamers, like a lot of the people that have PS5s, have Switch as a secondary console, and they're going to want that next one.
I think it'll definitely affect the base PS5 sales. Like I think long term, whenever the Switch 2 is announced and confirmed, that's when you see PS5 sales take a dip. And same with Xbox, if they can dip any lower for
Yeah, I
that
was gonna say,
Nintendo audience.
can we? I didn't even say Xbox because I personally like. What are they gonna do?
We
Sell
sold
900 instead of
it,
1,000?
it'll be like the Xbox One generation where they're like, we sold 4 in Japan this week. But yeah, the whenever the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, that's whenever you're going to see a dip in the main PS5 sales. I think with the Pro, that's your hardcore PS5 audience. I think that you might see like a couple of people that switch over and do like something different with their money that they can spend on games. But especially when it comes to that limited edition, like if you're one of the people spending $1,000 on your PS5 Pro 30th anniversary bundle, you're ride or die. You've got the Metal Gear tattoo on your sleeve from 2002. You're ready to rock, and I don't think that'll change anything. But it'll definitely have an impact on the overall console market for sure.
Can I just say that those 30th anniversary edition bundles, so beautiful.
Oh
Oh my
yeah,
god! I
oh
was
yeah.
like, man, I don't think like when I look at the PS1, I'm like, okay, okay, what? But like something about that, I'm like, ooh, that looks sexy. Ooh, God.
It looks
Uh,
very nice. I will also say that the DualSense Edge is one of the ugliest controllers I've ever seen in my
yes,
life.
that is true.
It looks like a thing you'd buy your kid to build at home to like it like clips apart, which I know functionally is a good move. I get that. I hear you. I understand. But man, it's just so compared to the regular DualSense, it's just night and day. Like the Edge is very ugly. But man, those limited edition variants of everything are just gorgeous. I love that old color scape and nostalgic. I can hear the noise in my head. Like it's just great. I love that kind of thing.
Yo, how cool would it be? Because right now, when you turn on your PS5, unless you turn it off, there's like a beep sound. If they
Yep.
just put the PS1 startup
Yep.
noise, oh, that'd be
That'd be
so
very. Did you see
good.
the charging cable?
Yes, I did.
Where it's got the
Yeah,
PS1 input. That's
yeah.
sick. I love that. Now I totally understand. That's just a 3D printed piece of plastic that
Hmm.
costs like 2 cents
Hmm.
to make. I know, but I still want it. Like it's very neat. I love that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
is this what gets you in? Are you going to contribute to the 2-to-1 ratio?
I'll have to see what the price is on the regular PS5. I'm not going to get the Pro, I don't think. And then even beyond that, like, do I really have to go back and play these things? Like Ragnarok just came out on PC. I can literally just build a
Sure,
PC and play that. Came out today, I think.
it did.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then Helldivers 2 is already on PC, so I don't really need a PlayStation for that. So
Concord.
this no, I'm good. Even if it comes back, I think I'm good. The sensible person in me is like, no, but then the nostalgic little fat kid in me that grew up on PS1 is like, man, I love that controller. So I'll see on the price. I'll see how that looks.
One last comment, then we'll get off and we'll go to a different topic. But there's I think it's a pool store near me, and it's named Concord. And I drive by it when I go to the grocery store, and I just want to take a picture of it and do that meme where it's like Spider Man's like everywhere I go, I see his face, and then just like putting one of the ugly Concord characters.
That's solid. That's great. That's
Yeah.
funny.
All right. Story number 3, your Xbox Game Pass update for the second half of September is here, available right now. You got Wargroove 2 for cloud, console, and PC. You have tomorrow or today, depending on when you're listening to this, Frostpunk 2 for PC. Or October 4th, not September 4th. I already have it. October 4th, you got Aura History Untold for PC. Where the hell are all the console games?
I was going to ask, is there a typo here? I thought Aura was coming out on Xbox. Is it not?
No, that was mythology.
Oh, Age of Mythology
Yeah, that
Retold.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a good drop, I would say. I'm not a big fan of this one. Frostpunk 2, I know, is going to be a great game for the audience that wants that. Like, I've heard great things about Frostpunk 1, and then I've seen people playing Frostpunk 2, and they seem pretty high on it. Aura, boy, you couldn't bring me something I would care about less than Aura, but happy for you if you enjoy that kind of thing.
I have to believe that next week's TGS, Tokyo Game Show, I have to believe that they are saving some Game Pass announcements, like some Japanese style games for that show. If not, oh boy, what is going on with Game Pass? I've been talking about it for weeks now. Every time we have a drop, I'm like, they're giving us less and less games. This one we got 3. And like, yeah, sure, some of them are day one, but a lot of PC focused games, a lot of strategy, like a lot of very niche games. Like all these games are pretty similar. One's a tactic RPG, I think, and then Frostpunk is I don't know, man. Why do we need all these 4X games too? What's going on?
Yeah, I gotta say, and this is something I was going to bring up on the show anyway, but I am currently at the point where whenever my subscription expires here in a couple of months, I'm going to have to take a deep look at like, do I actually resubscribe to this? Because the way that I'm playing games has changed a lot over the past couple of
Mhm.
months, where I want to spend more time with the games that I've got rather than bumping around to different stuff. And I've had less time to play, which has given me time to kind of take a step back and say, where do I want to spend my time? You know, over the past week, I probably had 10 hours to play games, 12 hours to play games. And I spent probably 6 of those in X Defiant, 2 of them in Space Marine, and then, you know, whatever the remainder is in Helldivers 2. And it's like, I own all of those. And one of them's free to play. I can just play them. I haven't really used that subscription that I have been paying for.
Mhm.
Now, my tune will vastly change whenever we have a plethora of games that I want to play, which we've had up until the past couple of months. But until we start hitting that stride again, you know, maybe it is a case of resubscribing whenever Doom comes out and we kind of hit that Gears cadence. Or I just do the math and I'm like, all right, buying those 4 games versus having the subscription constantly going, am I missing out on that much if I change my play style to spend more time in the games rather than
Mhm.
just running through them and being done and moving on to the next thing?
Yeah, I don't think you're the only one that's gonna be doing those calculations, and I've been looking. I think Woot Wario64 tweeted out this week had like it was basically half off. I think it was Ultimate for $10,
Oh,
and
wow.
you could just buy like 3-month codes and stack them. So I was like, I sent it around. I was like, anyone that wants, because this is the price of core. If you drop it to or is it still called core? I don't even know, man. I don't even know these console tiers. But if you drop it to the $10 one where you just get online, then like you can get Ultimate right now if you want to go through this third party seller if you trust them enough. So it's a conversation that's got to be had, because like I do that with Disney Plus. Like I know that Agatha show, I think
Yeah.
that's what's called, just dropped, and I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for all to come out and then probably wait for something else to come out, and I'll just binge them both at the same time.
Yeah, well, people do that with Ubisoft all the time. I mean, when Star Wars Outlaws dropped, they got a month of Ubisoft Plus for $14 or whatever it cost, and then they blew through Outlaws, and now they're done, and it saves the money that way. And like, I don't want to shame anybody for doing that because I get it. Like, games are expensive. $70 for a new game every time is very, very pricey. But if I'm, you know, again, just playing stuff differently, and I also want to say, if I'm thinking about it, like rethinking how I subscribe, and I'm on an Xbox podcast, and I make
Hmm.
content, like, how many other people that aren't doing that are like, why am I paying for this thing that gives me aura? You know, again, not to just totally trash on aura, because I know that's going to be a game that people enjoy, but as an example of me, the mainline like FPS
Hmm.
guy that's been playing testosterone games for the past 2 weeks, I don't need that. I'm good. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be a conversation people have for sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Hopefully Tokyo Game Show has something next week. Come on. Final Fantasy.
I don't think that's gonna have anything for me, but like,
Uh,
but more power to you, bud.
Listen, man, they could. I'm trying to think of a Japanese game you could potentially like, and I got nothing.
I mean, I tried Yakuza and
I love
I didn't even
Yakuza.
get into that. Like, I
To be
didn't get it.
fair, Yakuza, I would not recommend to you, because like the opening is basically a 2 hour long movie. Like
Mm,
you got to watch a lot of cutscenes before you actually get to play the game.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Doesn't seem like your speed.
No, don't believe it is.
All right, last news story, short one. Xbox announced War Game, the making of Stalker 2. So Xbox, in collaboration with GSC Game World, have announced a documentary called War Game, the making of Stalker 2, in which developers will discuss their experience on working in conditions of war. This was announced. I think this comes out in a few weeks. I want to say the beginning of October. This one drops. So if you are interested, you can check that out. But I think it's really cool that the Xbox is partnering with GSE Game World for more than just Stalker 2. Obviously, they're giving them a Game Pass deal, but it seems they really have latched onto this team, given them more than just Game Pass support. And now they're like, hey, we want to get your story out there. We want to show everyone like the hardships that you went through when Russia invaded the Ukraine. Because like they were talking about people at the studio went off and died in the battles. Like this is it's some intense stuff. And I know people are like, oh, when's the game coming out? But like so much more has been going on behind the scenes. So I think it's awesome that they're going to get that out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I know this isn't a documentary, but I think about the Tetris movie that came out. It's on Apple right now, and it's like obviously a very dramatized version of the narrative. But thinking about how Tetris came about during the late 80s, whenever you had Soviet Russia that was trying to kind of control it or have some kind of meddling in it, and there was that political backdrop to the development of Tetris. That is something that I love to learn about. Like, I love seeing how games were developed and their space in history, because games are very much so a part of our society. It's a culture thing. And so in the same way that, learning about the paintings that were made during specific periods of time in like, the ancient days that are still around now, I think this is something that whenever we're looking back on gaming history in 2050 to see what was going on in the 2020s, you're going to be looking back, and this documentary is going to be a direct example of like how this game came to be or what development was like during the Russia-Ukraine war. And that's something that I think is super valuable to capture in the moment. It's a very mindful way to go about it. So, I'm a big fan of No Clip. I'm looking forward to seeing what Viewport puts out, with Alex Van Aken, formerly of Game Informer, now getting into that kind of documentary space. But I think this is incredibly important. So to see Xbox supporting it in the way that they are, love to see it. Very, very nice.
Yeah, Xbox always makes some good documentary stuff. Like, I know the Power On
was great.
Really good. I know they have that Psychonauts 2 one that just came out recently, was also pretty good. Like, they're pretty good at this stuff. So I expect this to be good.
Yeah, Power On was, if they can match the production quality of Power On and the drama around what would seemingly be just like corporate day-to-day life, I would love to see that. Would absolutely love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see what happens in a few weeks. Definitely check that one out if you're interested. But let's end the show with some listener questions. So I asked everyone, give us some questions celebrating episode 200. Sam Heaney wrote in and said, by the time you reach episode 300, what do you expect / hope will be your favorite game from the Xbox portfolio, and why?
300 weeks from now. That's roughly like 6 years, right?
Ooh,
it's 52 weeks in a year. So
no,
like,
we're not doing 3. It's 100 more episodes.
For that. Jesus, sorry. Yeah, it's been a long week. All right, so 100 more episodes.
300 weeks.
So we're coming. So at this point, we're coming up on the end of this console generation, right? Like another 2 years from now.
Yeah, it's about 2 years. About 2 years.
Yeah, I think that at that point, I would expect, that's a hard thing. I mean, Halo is always going to be like my favorite thing. I'll be interested to see where Halo is at that point. I think if we're looking back 2 years from now on like what the past 2 years has brought, I've got to imagine at this point it's probably going to be Doom: The Dark Ages. Like, I feel like that's going to be that's my game of the generation right there, if it delivers on the level that I think that it could. So I would say Doom: The Dark Ages. What about you?
So I have 2 answers. One of them is a meme. But Banjo-Kazooie, obviously, when they inevitably put out that game that they're definitely working on.
100%.
For my serious answer, it's got to be Fable. I really, really want Fable to hit the way I like, because Fable was always my Xbox franchise. Like, I loved Gears, I loved Halo, I always have, but Fable throughout the original and 360, I was like, this is the game that brings me to the Xbox ecosystem. So if they can recapture that magic and make me fall in love with the franchise again, then you're good. Like, I will be completely happy if that can be my favorite Xbox portfolio game of this generation.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I'm interested to see where that one lands. That's one that I feel like could be a wild card, like I think it could be really good or really bad. And I don't think it's not giving me okay vibes. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's a mark that you can't really miss because of the fan base that's developed around it. Like, they've really got to nail it. But that could be said for everything Xbox puts out. So I'm definitely interested to see what Playground comes up with.
Brandon writes in, says, what's your favorite topic been over the last 200 episodes? Can I just take a minute? What kind of psychotic question is this? I can barely remember what we talked about last week, and you want me to pick from 200 episodes?
Gosh, yeah, that's a tall order. I think for me, obviously having come in just a little over a year ago, I think that talking through the ABK acquisition week to week was one of my favorite parts, just because it was such a drama around
Mhm.
like the pushing and the pulling and the what did Jim Ryan say on the stand? Like it was very, it was almost like Ace Attorney Xbox edition. It was super weird. So I really enjoyed talking through that. And not being fanboys about it. I think that's something that we do really well, is that I've been playing Helldivers, you've been playing Astrobot. Like we're
Mhm.
not trying to dig into the trenches and mudsling around. It's just talking through the news as it's happening. I think it's super fun.
Yeah, it's funny because I was gonna say probably one of the acquisitions, whether it was ABK, Bethesda, even because we when I started, like that had just like that happened a few months after we started this podcast. Like I really enjoyed talking about what the Bethesda acquisition meant, the Bungie acquisition for PlayStation, while
That's a big
not
one.
Xbox related. Like that was a great fun discussion that me and the original cast of the show had. But yeah, my mind immediately went to ABK as well, where I know people probably got sick of it. I got sick of it sometimes, but like there were weeks where it was like, oh, this is super interesting stuff going on. This is super fun to talk about. Other than that, anytime we can talk in depth about games, like I really like the Star Wars Outlaw discussion that like you, Joe, and
Yeah.
like the whole thing. Like that is some of my favorite content when we just deep dive into games. Our Starfield discussion actually is really up there. I
Yeah.
love the episode after Starfield came out. We basically spent an hour straight just talking about what we're doing in Starfield.
Yeah, it's very fun. And I think that's something that, as somebody who's always been a solo content creator, where I did solo podcasts for the most part, and I was just kind of doing my own thing, coming in and having deep conversations, being able to hear somebody else's opinion in real time of a game has been nice for me, on like a personal note. But then having, like you said, those conversations with Joe and getting more into that, into the community that we kind of share, we kind of run in the same circles, and our people within our community do as well. So it's great to be able to kind of cross pollinate and get in there and have deep, thoughtful discussions on games whenever we have so much on social media that's not deep and not thoughtful and just tribalistic. And it's like, it's
Mhm.
very refreshing for me week to week.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. Ghostly Guides writes in our last question. Says, "What's been your favorite game from every Xbox generation so far?" What are you doing here? Can we agree? Hey, mine's Halo 2 from the original
Absolutely.
Xbox.
Halo 2, yes.
Halo 2, like that's not even a question.
What's the 360 one?
It has to be. Well, it doesn't say Xbox game. It says his favorite game from an Xbox generation. So
Oh, yeah.
Mass Effect 2.
Okay, I mean, I feel like Mass Effect and the Xbox 360 go hand in hand. I
I
mean, it's
agree. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's just kind of the way that it is. For me, it would have to be COD 4. I think is where my 360 heart would lie, just because that was a game that I literally like. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I loved
Hmm.
COD 4 so much. So COD 4 is mine. So now we're Xbox One. What's your
Xbox
Xbox
One.
One game?
Hellblade.
Hellblade. Interesting.
Yeah.
Xbox One for me, I mean, does the Master Chief Collection count? I feel like that gets weird. But I feel like if I had to pick a brand new game, I would probably say, gosh, thinking back, Doom 2016.
Ooh, good one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would say Doom 2016 on the Xbox One was one that I really appreciated. And then with the
You
Series
like
X,
you like 16 more than Eternal, or are we counting Eternal as a Series X game? Is
I would
Eternal
count
on the old consoles? It might,
Eternal was one of the last games to
because I was
launch on
like,
the
I
Xbox
swear I
One.
played it on the original. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I played it on the Xbox One X. I think that I like Doom 2016 more because it is
Okay.
more intentional with like the running and gunning. The Eternal is very rhythmic. It's almost like playing Guitar Hero with like, it's almost like Metal Hellslinger,
Mm.
or Metal Hellsinger, excuse me. I always do the hash singing
I do it too.
slasher
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, the Metal Hellsinger is
Me
kind of the DNA shared there.
Someone called out me and Sean Capri for saying Metal Hellslinger, and then we were like, wait, it's not
Yeah,
Hellslinger? Yeah. All
yeah.
right.
Which, by the way, that might be my favorite game from the Xbox Series X generation. It's up there, man. I love Metal Hellsinger.
Wow.
It's a very, I
Okay.
mean, I'm probably exaggerating, but in terms of like my favorite indies, I think that might be one that I would really consider, because whenever you've got like the lead singer of System of a Down doing a custom song for your Doom metal game, dude, that's me every day of the week, man. Such a good game.
Singer Trivium does a song for that
Wait,
game. Trivium, the singer of Trivium's in there too.
I don't think I've heard of Trivium. Should I know
Oh
Trivium?
no, they're a metal band. I assumed
Okay.
you would. They were.
I'm
They
adding
were.
it to my list.
They were probably a bigger back in my day. They had a few good albums. A few good albums
Okay.
if you're into that kind of stuff.
I'm into it.
System of a Down. I looked up recently because I was like, did they ever put out more music? And then I looked and I was like, they really only put out those 2 albums, and then they were like, we're out. We're done.
Yeah, now I think his name is Serge. He owns a coffee shop, and it's just like a local roaster coffee shop, which I respect that. Like I get it, man. But my favorite Xbox Series X game would probably have to be, gosh, I mean, Halo Infinite's the one that I put the most time into. I think it's probably got to be Halo Infinite just by default. Yeah.
A Plague Tale Requiem.
Very good pick. Phenomenal pick. Yeah, that is definitely a generational game.
I think I was torn because A Plague Tale almost was my Xbox One pick, but I had to pick Hellblade, so I was like, I'm gonna give some love in the Series X generation.
Requiem, I think, was a better game by far.
I replayed Innocence after I've played Requiem, and I really love Innocence still. I just think there's something like simplistic about it, and like I think the story is like they could have ended it just like The Last of Us. They could have ended it at 1.
Yeah.
The fact they didn't, it's like, okay, I don't need this, but like I really I like Requiem way more than I like The Last of Us Part 2. Let me tell you that. Like,
yeah. Speaking of great Game Pass drops, Requiem, like give me more of that. That was really great.
Yeah, now they're making Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Wait, what?
Asobo makes A Plague Tale and Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I miss that?
No, yeah, it's the same studio.
Oh, that's crazy. Really? I had no idea. All right. Well, how
that's
about
funny. That? Yeah. They have 2 teams. One works on the Plague Tale, and then one works on Microsoft Flight Sim.
Like when you say it out loud, it makes sense. I get that, but then I just never connected the dots between. Okay, all right, never mind. Sorry,
I know that specifically because every time their name pops up on a showcase, I get excited, and then I see planes, and I go, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, of course, that's wild. Wow, what a multi-talented crew.
True that. Well, Sam, that is it for episode 200 of Project XTalk. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm happy you have been here. I don't know what episode you joined, but like 50 plus episodes.
Yeah,
now,
something like that. It was like June of last year, so we're probably 58 in, I would say.
Yeah, so 1/4. You're more than 1/4 of the show you've been here. Hopefully, we'll just get that percentage up, and you'll overtake everyone. No one will even know what the show was before you. All right,
just like Xbox sales, we're just going to keep getting that percentage higher until we take over. Yeah,
that's optimism, everybody. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you in the meantime?
Yeah. You can find me at JamPackSam on Threads, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff, putting out content every week. And of course, here every week and having great conversations for years to come. So congrats on 200 though, man, for sure. This is a podcast that I look forward to being a part of. And I know that a lot of people look forward to listening to. So I appreciate all of the hard work and dedication you put into it, preparing the show every week. For the background info, I do nothing. I show up and talk into a mic. Kevin does everything else. So I just want everybody to know that he is the brain power. I'm just here for some reason.
He's the on-screen talent. All right, that's what it is. It evens out. It evens out. Yeah. Well, you can find me at the Muffin Mon everywhere. It's a 1 and 7 IO instead of an A. Follow us at Save Game Media everywhere. It's up to date with our latest content. We'll have a Key Locker review coming shortly. I know we have a code for that. Got to us a little late, so we're in the middle of reviewing it, but that will be out at some point. So stay tuned if you're interested in that game. Until next time for episode 201, we will see you